Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Welcome to our latest episode. This time around, we bring you the Appalachian Trail. How dangerous is it? Join me. Let's walk and see. Now, the Appalachian Trail, affectionately known as the AT, stretches over 2,200 miles and traverses 14 states in the easternmost United States. From Springer Mountain in Georgia to Mount Katahdin in Maine, many consider hiking this iconic trail the ultimate test of endurance and perseverance. The longest hiking-only footpath in the world, an estimated 2 to 3 million people trek the AT yearly to experience nature's astonishing beauty and challenge themselves physically and mentally. The AT offers something for everyone, literally, from the rugged wilderness to scenic overlooks to quaint surrounding towns and villages. Although, despite its fame as a scenic hiking trail, the AT's remote corners hold some dark and eerie secrets. There have been violent assaults and approximately a dozen murders since the first reported murder in 1974. According to Phoebe Smith, an award-winning travel writer who frequently camps alone, the most significant risks to hikers are weather-related, or the lack of appropriate gear. However, violent crime on hiking trails like the Appalachian Trail does occur. In this video, we'll explore some chilling incidents on the Appalachian Trail and provide valuable advice on maintaining safety when exploring nature. In 1974, Joel Polson and Margaret McFadden started their AT hike at the southern terminus, Springer Mountain, Georgia. After covering 6 miles that day, the pair stopped to rest at Low Gap Shelter, where they encountered Ralph Howard Fox. After conversing for a few minutes, Margaret went to wash up in the stream, followed by Joel. The pair returned to the shelter, started a fire, and invited Fox to join them for dinner, but he declined. Then, without warning, Fox shot and killed Joel the following day, took his belongings, and kidnapped Margaret. After a few days, Fox let her go, and she notified authorities. Margaret later picked Fox out of a police lineup, and he was ultimately indicted for Joel's murder in October of 1975. Fox pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in Georgia State Prison. This was the first known murder to occur on the Appalachian Trail. Then, in 1975, 22-year-old thru hiker Janice Balza from Madison, Wisconsin, stayed at the Vandeventer shelter on the AT in Butler, Tennessee. 51-year-old Paul Bigley, who had a history of mental illness, attacked and killed her with a hatchet as she sat near his campfire, allegedly for her backpack. Bigley was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Some hikers believe Janice's ghost still haunts the shelter. There have been sightings, and also reports of growling and stomping noises in the area. Then, in 1981, Maine social workers Robert Mountford Jr. and Laura Susan Ramsey, each 27 years old, were hiking the AT to raise money for troubled teens. They stayed at the Wapiti shelter in Giles, Virginia. Robert was shot in the head with a .22 caliber pistol, and Laura was bludgeoned with a piece of iron and stabbed continually with a knife and a long nail. Their bodies were placed in their sleeping bags and then buried. Randall Lee Smith would later be charged with their murders and was released from prison after serving 15 years for good behavior. He later tried to commit murder again in the exact location. A book entitled Murder on the Appalachian Trail recounts the true story of Robert and Laura's deaths. Smith's motive remains unknown. In 1988, Stephen Roy Carr killed 28-year-old Rebecca White and wounded her partner, 31-year-old Claudia Brenner, in Michaud State Forest, Pennsylvania. Carr first met Rebecca in a public bathroom and saw the couple again later that day. Carr watched the couple for a while that night before shooting at them, killing Rebecca and injuring Claudia. Carr was caught and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On May 19, 1996, 24-year-old Julianne Julie Williams and her 26-year-old partner Lolly Winans camped in Shenandoah National Park, Virginia. Julie was reported missing on May 31st after her roommate phoned Julie's father to inform him that she hadn't yet returned from her trip. The pair were discovered murdered at a campsite on Bridle Trail, only a short distance from an area filled with restaurants, bars, and cabins. The FBI is investigating the case, and the killer remains at large. Louise Chaput was a 52-year-old psychologist from Sherbrooke, Quebec, Canada, with an unrivaled passion for hiking. On November 15, 2001, Louise left her home and set off on a solo 3+ hour journey by car to Mount Washington in the presidential range of New Hampshire's White Mountains. She planned a short hike on the Lost Pond Trail across the street from the lodge where she would stay. Louise never returned and was reported missing. Sadly, her body was discovered with multiple stab wounds on Thanksgiving Day, and her death was ruled a homicide. The motive remains unknown, and the perpetrator has yet to be identified. In 2008, 24-year-old Meredith Emerson was murdered by Gary Michael Hilton, a 61-year-old drifter, while hiking on Blood Mountain in Georgia. Hilton initially walked with Meredith and her dog, but fell behind due to her fast pace. Meredith re-encountered Hilton on her way down the mountain, where he attacked her with a knife and a baton. Despite her training in martial arts, Hilton overpowered and kidnapped her, keeping her captive for 3 days before ultimately killing her with a car jack handle. Hilton, who was mentally unstable and believed to be a sociopath, confessed to targeting Meredith because she was a woman. Hilton was later charged with 3 additional murders and sentenced to life in prison. In 2011, a group of hikers found 30-year-old Scott Lilly deceased near the Cow Camp Gap shelter on the AT. Scott, a SOBO or southbound hiker, started his journey in Maryland and was headed toward Springer Mountain. He was last seen on July 31st after climbing the Priest in Nelson County. Scott's cause of death was determined to be asphyxia by suffocation, and his belongings were missing. The FBI has not confirmed if robbery was indeed the motive for the crime, and Scott's murder remains unsolved. Then, in 2019, 43-year-old Army veteran Ronald Sanchez Jr. was murdered by James Lewis Jordan. Ronald was camping with 3 other hikers in Wythe County, Virginia, when they encountered Jordan, who was behaving erratically and threatening to burn their tents. When they attempted to leave, Jordan attacked him, killing Ronald and injuring another hiker. Jordan was found not guilty by reason of insanity and will not be released until the court determines that he will not create a, quote, substantial risk of injury, end quote, to anyone else. And then we have an almost deadly case. In 2008, while camping near the Wapiti shelter, fishermen Scott Johnson and Sean Farmer encountered Randall Smith, who introduced himself as Ricky Williams. Unaware that Smith was the same person who had murdered Robert Mountford Jr. and Laura Susan Ramsey in 1981, Scott and Sean invited him to join them for dinner. After sharing a meal and conversing for hours, Smith lingered even though he claimed his camp was far away. Around 8:30 p.m., Smith suddenly opened fire on Scott and Sean as they prepared to part ways. Remarkably, both men were wounded but managed to escape together and survive. Smith, who was later identified as the assailant, died in prison. The motive for the attack remains unsolved. So, how dangerous is the Appalachian Trail? Well, generally speaking, the AT is safe, but not without its risks of danger. There have been a dozen murders reported since 1974, as we talked about. According to U.S. crime rate reports between 1974 and 2017, individuals are 968 times more likely to be murdered in the U.S. at large than on the AT in any given year. Know before you go. Consider what could go wrong and how you'll deal with it. Be aware that cell phones and earbuds may distract you and prevent you from seeing or hearing cues that could help you avoid a dangerous situation. Always carry an outer layer of clothing that will protect you from wind and rain if you have to spend unplanned time in the woods during inclement weather. Cell phone reception is unpredictable and in some places entirely non-existent. Hikers should consider a satellite-guided messenger device or a personal locator beacon for long treks and carry a compass and paper map. Staying safe on your hike. Staying alert and aware of your surroundings is essential regardless of where you are. Be prepared and informed. Avoiding trouble is always your first defense. Ensure someone knows where you plan to be and check in with them regularly. Be sure your contacts know your trail name and provide them with the number of the land managing agency for the area of your hike. This information is available online or on ATC maps. Hikers should research the trail and its surroundings before embarking on a trip and carry appropriate gear and supplies. They should also be familiar with basic safety procedures, such as handling encounters with wildlife and navigating the terrain in an emergency. Use extra caution if hiking alone and refrain from broadcasting that you are alone or giving information about your intentions. Hiking with a partner or dog can provide a false sense of security, as neither guarantees safety. If you encounter someone who makes you feel uneasy, avoid engaging with them and put distance between you. Move on and try to connect with another group of hikers. Always pay attention to your instincts and be wary of strangers. Be polite, but also be cautious. And be advised that you may encounter different cultural norms along the trail. Actions, clothing, or even language choices that may be viewed as freedom of expression in the generally accepting culture of the AT can be taken differently in some local communities or even by individual hikers on the trail. If you do have a cell phone with you, call 911 if you feel your safety is threatened. Law enforcement rarely monitors trail-related social media. If you simply cannot call 911, notify local law enforcement immediately as you can and use the trail registers. If someone needs to locate you or a serious crime has been committed along the trail, register entries may be helpful to authorities. Leave a note and report any suspicious activities in these trail registers. The ATC generally discourages taking weapons on the trail, must comply in the state law in which the federal land is located. Many hikers feel carrying firearms is unnecessary and contrary to the social nature of the trail. Plus, guns are extra weight and can be turned against you or result in an accidental shooting. If you do plan to carry, acquire training beforehand and mentally prepare yourself for using the firearm. Contacting in advance the forest, park, or state land unit you'll pass through is best to ensure compliance. Also, avoid hitchhiking and make transportation arrangements beforehand if possible. If an emergency requires you to hitchhike, be sure to have a partner and flag down a vehicle yourself so you choose the vehicle, not vice versa. Carefully evaluate the driver, any occupants, and the vehicle condition before accepting a ride. If something seems off, even the slightest bit, decline the offer. Ensure your phone is charged and your wallet and ID are on your person. Stay with your pack. Photograph or write down the license plate and note the vehicle's make, model, and color. Please note that hitchhiking is illegal in some states, so carefully consider your risks. Eliminate opportunities for theft. Don't bring jewelry with you and hide your money and other valuables. If you must leave your pack momentarily, hide it or leave it with someone trustworthy. Keep valuables or equipment out of sight in vehicles parked at trailheads and camp away from the roads. Check the trail site information before leaving your car parked and unattended. So, overall, the AT fosters a warm and welcoming atmosphere characterized by a shared language, trail families, and the support of trail angels. Always maintain situational awareness and remember you are ultimately responsible for your safety. If you see something, say something. This helps ensure the AT remains as safe as possible for all visitors. The courageous determination of hikers such as Kirby Morrill serves as a potent reminder that fear should not hold us back from pursuing our passions and exploring the beauty of the natural world. While we should always remain vigilant and take necessary precautions, the Appalachian Trail offers unparalleled adventure and community opportunities. Well, friends, there you have it. I would love to know your thoughts on the Appalachian Trail. I look forward to your comments, but please be polite and respectful. Until we meet again, be good to yourselves and each other. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll see you a little further down the trail. Tell your animals I said hi.